It was 1963, in Las Vegas, a city that never truly slept, but at night, it breathed differently. The neon lights of the strip pulsed like the slow, steady beat of a heart, painting the streets in shades of red, blue, and green. Chrome signs reflected ambition, glinting under the desert sky as if daring the night to compete. Cigarette smoke curled lazily from balconies and hotel doors, drifting upward like hesitant thoughts. Outside, engines purred, heels clicked against marble, and laughter spilled from open doors, carrying the faint scent of perfume and alcohol. Inside the Sands Hotel, the air was warmer, heavier with expectation. The Copa room glowed under a carefully calibrated light, dim but deliberate. Tables were draped in white linen, glasses catching the glow and reflecting tiny shards of gold. Men in tailored suits leaned back confidently, women in silk and pearls whispered and laughed in measured tones. This was not a place where people came to be surprised, this was a place where they came to have their power, their influence, their relevance confirmed. Backstage, Dean Martin stood alone. Not pacing. Not rehearsing. Just observing, quietly letting the room's rhythm enter his mind. He could hear the distant hum of the audience, the polite murmurs, the occasional clink of glass, the shuffle of feet as the crowd settled in. A stagehand approached, whispering that the show would begin in 2 minutes. Dean nodded, taking a slow breath, his mind calm but alert. Nerves were not his enemy, they were a signal, a tool. The crowd, unaware of the tension backstage, shifted in anticipation. There were familiar faces, gamblers, entertainers, hotel executives, and men with badges that whispered influence rather than announced it. Somewhere in the front, a man leaned back in his chair, watching, calculating, observing. Dean didn't yet know him by name, but instinct told him this man would matter tonight. The band started a soft riff, a low warm note that rolled through the room like a velvet carpet being laid. The applause began to swell gently, restrained but respectful, as if the audience knew a moment of history might be approaching. And then Dean Martin stepped into the light. Dean didn't rush. He moved with the effortless confidence that years of experience demanded. His jacket hung perfectly on his shoulders. His eyes scanned the audience, not for recognition, but to measure the room's pulse. One word, softly spoken, evening. And the room responded with laughter, not forced, not brash, but comfortable, warm, the kind that comes from recognition of a man who knows himself. He began to sing. Not loud, not theatrical, just Dean Martin. His voice rolled through the room like a familiar story being told for the first time. It carried warmth, humor, a subtle authority, and even the audience knew, subconsciously, that no one could rush him or shake him tonight. Applause followed each verse, smooth and consistent, the room giving back exactly what he asked for: attention, respect, appreciation. Then he noticed him. Dead center in the front row. A man with a diamond cufflink catching the stage lights, a tailored suit that whispered wealth, hair slicked back with more confidence than humility. His expression was unreadable, yet Dean felt the weight of it: entitlement. Observation. Judgment. The man leaned toward the young woman beside him, whispering, and she laughed nervously. Dean continued singing, letting the music flow, but his eyes kept finding the VIP. Something in Dean shifted imperceptibly, a flicker of awareness that would soon become purpose. As Dean finished a song, applause rolled through the room again. But it was thinner this time. The VIP clapped once, slowly, with a smirk, and leaned back. His glass untouched. His posture deliberate, demanding recognition without earning it. Dean Martin noticed it, and so did the band, who paused ever so slightly on the next chord, the subtle tension beginning to ripple through the room. Dean's next song began softly. But Victor Hale, this is what the man's badge whispered, was not content to remain passive. His voice rose, directed not at the performance, but at the room itself, at the audience, at Dean's musicians, at everyone who had come for a night of art and elegance. He recounted a deal he had closed, a senator embarrassed, a personal victory in a tone that was meant to dominate, disrupt, assert superiority. People glanced toward him. Some rolled their eyes. Others shifted uncomfortably, unsure of whether to ignore him or intervene. Dean, however, continued. The music continued. But each note felt a little heavier. Each word of the song had to carry more weight to rise above the intrusion. Then Victor spoke again, just loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. "Hey, Dino," he said. A few heads turned, polite interest mingled with discomfort. Dean paused, not in panic, not in anger. Calmly, he responded, "Yes, sir?" His voice smooth, almost teasing, but firm. Victor leaned back, smirk widening. "Why don't you sing something a little more lively? We're not at church." A ripple ran through the audience. Dean allowed a soft chuckle, turning slightly back to the band. "I'll see what I can do," he said. But he understood immediately that the night had changed. This was no longer merely a performance. This was a test of dignity, of poise, of restraint. Victor continued, rising to his feet, chair scraping. "Dean, maybe comedy isn't your thing," he said, loud enough for the room to hear. Whispers spread. Eyes darted toward the stage. Some audience members stiffened, unsure how this confrontation would unfold. The music paused, a subtle tension held in midair. Dean Martin did not flinch. He breathed. He measured. He waited. Dean Martin walked to the edge of the stage. Not aggressively, not in anger, but deliberately, with a calmness that itself carried authority. He looked at Victor Hale as a man might look at a child who had just overstepped an invisible boundary, without scorn, without theatrics, but with undeniable clarity. "You're a guest here," Dean said, voice low, steady. The room fell into a hush. Victor laughed, sarcastic. "And you're the entertainment," he replied, his voice attempting dominance. Dean's gaze softened but did not waver. "Yes," he said. "That is correct. And the people in this room deserve respect, all of them. Not disruption." His tone was quiet, almost conversational, yet every word struck with moral weight. Victor leaned forward, his smirk fading. "You can't talk to me like that," he said. "Do you know who I?" Dean raised a single finger, motioning patience, holding space for his own control. "I know who you are," he said slowly. "And tonight, that does not matter. You are welcome to stay, but if you do, you will respect the room, every person in it, or you can leave." The audience held its collective breath. Security shifted slightly, ready for escalation, but not intervening. Victor stared, face flushing, eyes searching for allies. He found none. Dean remained still, voice unchanging, calm as water, radiating authority without aggression. Victor Hale's jaw tightened. He spat a sharp laugh, muttered something about Vegas being soft, and turned to leave. The chair scraped back across the marble, the door closing behind him. Silence hovered for a heartbeat longer, as if the room itself was exhaling. Then applause broke through. Not polite. Not tentative. Thunderous, genuine. The audience rewarded Dean's poise, his courage, his quiet assertion of dignity. The band picked up their instruments once more, and Dean leaned into the microphone. "Where were we?" he said, a faint smile, and the music resumed. Laughter spread through the tables, lighter, freer, and the tension melted like smoke. Dean Martin sang the next number with ease, the room listening attentively, every note carrying both beauty and the quiet satisfaction of moral victory. The crowd's energy shifted, recognizing that respect had been maintained not by volume or aggression, but by restraint and self-assuredness. After the performance, Dean retreated backstage. The room now buzzing with conversation, the incident with Victor Hale already fading in memory, but not in impact. Dean lit a cigarette, inhaled slowly, and let the calm return. The band gathered around, praising the set, but even they knew this night would be remembered for more than music. It would be remembered for composure, for the quiet courage of a man who refused to be intimidated without raising his voice. The stagehand approached. "Mr. Martin," he said softly, "that was something." Dean smiled faintly. "Yes," he said. "It was." There was no pride in triumph, only a quiet acknowledgement of principle maintained. "Sometimes," he added, "you perform not just for applause, but to show what can be done with a little dignity." Years later, people wouldn't remember the name Victor Hale. They wouldn't speak of the wealth, the influence, the VIP status. But they would remember the night a man stood on a stage and proved that real power did not come from volume, intimidation, or status. It came from knowing your worth, respecting others, and standing calmly, firmly, with integrity. Dean Martin walked off into the shadows of the backstage hallway, cigarette smoke curling around him, the city of Las Vegas alive outside, restless as ever. But inside, he had reminded a room full of people, including those watching from afar, that courage could be quiet, that power could be gentle, and that dignity, unshaken, was louder than any voice raised in anger. And so the story passed into legend, not as scandal or confrontation, but as a demonstration of character. The kind of character that would echo far beyond the lights of the Copa room, far beyond the Strip, far beyond the era itself.